So you've just built your first computer, maybe your second or your third. Hopefully one of the videos I have here has helped you out, but after that, what do you do with it, right? I'm gonna show you from start to finish what you need to do with your computer to get you up and going, to get you gaming, to get you processing, to get you editing, to get you doing whatever you do on your computer. I'm gonna show you here, check it out. So this is a video I should have made a long time ago to help you guys out. I just didn't think about it. I've noticed a lot of comments in my videos of people, I've installed Windows and I try to play games and it doesn't work right or something along those lines. A lot of them haven't installed drivers, and I want to help you get your system up and running. So years ago, when Alienware was a company of about 20 employees, I started with them. I was a builder. I thought I knew it all. I found out quickly I knew nothing. So working my way up the ranks, I was a builder, I was an integrator, quality assurance, and then I became a product development engineer. So with all the knowledge I built up, I got to expand my knowledge so much more, working with the biggest and the best partners. So years later, Dell bought us, and I stayed with Dell for a while, and then I moved on to Velocity Micro. I was a senior development engineer there. Mind you, of course, I could not share secrets I learned back then at Velocity Micro because you don't do that, but I was able to work and help them grow as well. I'm going to show you a lot of what I've learned, how to install Windows and drivers and all that good stuff. Don't let Microsoft decide for you what drivers you should use. So anyway, come over here real quick. I'm gonna show you first off installing Windows, but I'm not going to go into great detail on it because I've already made a video on it as well. I'm going to link all videos I talk about in this video down below, as well as all the parts and everything, so you guys can check them out and watch them or do whatever. All right, let's get started. Okay, so now when you're booting up your PC for the very first time, just start tapping on the delete key with the thumb drive plugged in, which I already have it plugged in. Now, because the BIOS is going to be different on every single motherboard, these are the basics. I'm gonna walk you through the basics, and from there, you should be able to guide yourself on your own part. So enter setup. I loaded all the defaults. That way we can go over a few of the things. Again, because all the components are going to be different, you're going to have to go on your own on a few of these things. We'll go through a lot of that now. So there's nothing I'm going to change here for the CPU. Actually, coming over here to memory, we'll see memory profiles. Now, if you have XMP enabled memory, this is where we're going to go ahead and enable that. So on memory profiles, we'll select XMP profile 1. Now, selecting XMP profiles sets up all the memory for you, the speed, the voltage, and even the timings over here. And if there was anything necessary under OC for the CPU, it would have set that up as well. So then coming over here, advanced, we'll just set up a few things here. Graphics, we'll set that to PEG because we have a video card, a physical video card, not an on-die video card. If you had on-die, you would have selected IGFX. AMD is going to be a little bit different, of course. And then internal graphics, disabled. PCIe. Depending on the gen of your card, you'll select 3 or 4. Don't let it do auto. And don't select Gen 1. More than likely you don't have a Gen 1 video card in there. You may. Disable Wake on LAN. I'll leave this all enabled. Now, M.2 key, it's very important. If you don't have any M.2 devices, just go ahead, disable this. Now, if you do have M.2, just remember, M.2 drives on most motherboards disable at least 2 SATA ports. So make sure if you have any SATA drives aside from your M.2 drives that you're not utilizing those 2 ports, or else your drive won't show up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and leave that there because I do have an M.2. And I'm just doing basics here because since we're going to flash the BIOS, this is all going to revert back anyway. Okay, now you may notice my M.2 drive doesn't show up here. That's because we're going to be using Windows to create that boot manager, okay? Here you'll see my USB thumb drive. So I'm going to go ahead and save those changes I made just now. And then when we reboot, we're gonna go ahead and hit the delete key to come back into the BIOS real quick. Okay, so I'm tapping delete again to enter the BIOS. This part, more than likely, you don't need to do because it's a fresh drive that you've never installed Windows on before. It's not gonna have anything on there and it's going to boot more than likely off of the thumb drive, but I just wanna show you just in case. Okay, so enter setup, save and exit, and now boot override. I'm selecting to boot off of the thumb drive. And Windows 10, 64-bit. Okay, so next, install now. I'm not going to enter my key for now. I'm just going to do, I don't have a product key. And the product key I do have is for Windows 10 Pro, so I select that. Next, I accept, make sure to read through all this, and next. Now here we're going to select custom install Windows only advanced. If we had multiple drives, they would show here, but since I only have one drive connected, to make it less complicated, here we can see drive 0 unallocated space, like you bought it brand new in a store, and then we click next. Now when this is done, we're going to boot back into the BIOS to make sure to select that drive, and I'll show you that real quick when this is done. All right, so we're done here. Actually, I'm not gonna go ahead and hit delete. I'm gonna let Windows 10 do that. It does a good job. I am gonna go in afterwards when we're done installing Windows and show you how to set that up. Okay, so I'm going to go through all this, but I'm going to skip it. I'm not gonna show you here. My other video shows you completely how to install Windows 10. I'm just going to skip over this and get into the good stuff. All right, so we're in Windows. This is where the fun begins. Now, I should have mentioned it a little bit ago, and mind you, this is doing all its own setup stuff right now. Generally, I disconnect it from the internet when it's a fresh install, so it doesn't do its own thing, but that's okay just for right now. So here I have a list of all the components inside of the system. Now this is important because now that we know everything in the system, now that we're in Windows, now we can actually go on the internet and download all the drivers. Don't let Microsoft decide what drivers it wants to install for you. It's going to do a lot of that now, and then we're going to go ahead and download these drivers. So I have an EVGA Z390 dark motherboard. I wrote the wrong one on here, but that's okay. So now with that knowledge, we're going to go ahead and open up Edge. And Chrome. And we're gonna go ahead and download Chrome. Now mind you, you don't have to use Chrome. I just prefer it. Although the new Edge is a lot better, but still, I'm gonna use Chrome. And if you want to disable UAC, which I do, click Start, type UAC, change user account control settings, put this all the way down, and okay, yes, UAC is gone. From within Chrome, we'll go to EVGA.com. Now on EVGA's website, I'm gonna come over here, Services, then I'm going to click Drivers and BIOS, Motherboard, Family, it's a Z390, part number Z390 dark, type all OS Windows 10, and submit. Now, I showed you for the Z390 dark motherboard, but this is going to be the same for any motherboard you have. Just go to asus.com, msi.com, motherboardmanufacturer.com, select your motherboard, go to the support site, and then download the chipset. For example, I have here listed chipset, Intel RST, Intel ME, Intel Serial IO, network, audio adapter, and new audio, because I know what goes on here. But they're going to list here all of the drivers and the BIOS for your board. So just download the latest chipset driver, the latest motherboard management driver, the latest RAID driver, the latest Ethernet driver, and audio and all that good stuff, and definitely your BIOS. So I'm gonna go ahead and download all of that now, and I'll come back to you in 1 sec. Okay, now while that's downloading, since we have an Asus TUF 5700 video card, we're going to go to AMD.com. It's an AMD GPU. And then click over here, drivers and support. Scroll down a little bit. Then we select graphics, Radeon 5700 series, or whatever video card you may have. Radeon RX 5700 and RX 5700 XT, and click submit. Okay, and then I have Windows 10 64-bit. I'm gonna go ahead and download the latest and the greatest. And that's downloading. Because I have Patriot Viper PVR416G320C6K memory, there is RGB software for it, but the Asus software controls all that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and skip on that just for right now, but you know that your motherboard, your video card, even your RAM, and the other components, they have their own thing. Preparing a list like this beforehand of everything that's in your system. So as you can see, these boxes, they're gonna tell you everything that's there. And a lot of times they do bring their own drivers, but by the time they print those discs, they're already old. So I always recommend go to their websites. So you go to asus.com to get all the Asus software. You don't need the video drivers. It's an AMD GPU. You get it from AMD.com. If Arctic had some software for their liquid cooling unit, I'd go there. They don't though. EVGA, I've already gone there for the motherboard. I've downloaded the chipset and all that good stuff. Then over here with Asus, I'm going to go ahead and download all the drivers for that. The Intel processor doesn't have any drivers, so I don't have to worry about that. The Western Digital Black SN750 M.2 SSD does have. I can go ahead and go on their website and download the software I need as well. All right, so I've downloaded all the drivers and the BIOS and everything. So now I'm going to come over here and go to downloads, and we can see the BIOS is right here. Okay, so all I'll do is I'm going to go ahead, since this is inside of a zip file, we can see that right here, compressed folder. Never try to flash the BIOS from Windows through a zip file. Extract it. So I'm just going to go ahead, copy that into my downloads folder. Okay, and then from here, we just click update, more info, and run anyway. Now, you must click yes on the upcoming user account control pop-up, which we've already disabled. Press any key to continue, and so every single BIOS is going to be different, the method of flashing. EVGAs, I can do it through Windows. Some of others you have to put on a thumb drive, boot into the BIOS, and then find the BIOS flashing program from your BIOS, flash it that way. Some you still have to prepare a boot drive for, and your motherboard manufacturer manual will have all that information. Okay, flash is done. So press any key to continue. It's going to go ahead and restart my computer. Now when it goes in, it's going to start its own separate flash program as well. Okay, so now that it's done flashing, now we can come into the BIOS. It's CMOS checksum error because we just flashed it. So click yes to setup. Now we enter the setup. And then now we can go in and make the final changes again, because your board is going to be different than my board. More than likely, what I'm doing here, a lot of it is not going to apply, but this is good information to have. And then here, like I was saying, we'll set the M.2 to be the main boot drive, but thankfully the BIOS and Microsoft is smart enough to know to set it for me. Bet you may have to come in and select Windows Boot Manager. Okay, so at this point, really all I needed to do to get into Windows and everything running is set my XMP memory. And then one other thing you want to do is under SATA configuration, if you have RAID, set it to RAID. Mind you, you would have done that previously to installing Windows, but AHCI is good. So now we'll go ahead, F10, save and exit, and yes. All right, so now that we're back in Windows, the very first thing that we want to install is our chipset driver. So come over here, downloads, where we downloaded everything to. Go under chipset, copy that out of the zip and place it on the, wherever you want to place it to download from, but extract it from the zip. And then set up chipset. So the chipset is basically the base of the motherboard. It's the INF, kind of the foundation of a house. You need the foundation before you can build a house. Next, accept. Here are all the changes that have come through here. Install. Other recommendation, as you're installing, if the program asks you to restart, don't ignore it. Restart. Like here, restart now. What I like to do is restart later, then come in here and manually restart myself. All right, now that we're back in Windows. Now, chipset is the base. Now we come up from the base. We're going to be installing everything on the motherboard before we get to the very last driver, which is the video card. So then over here, we'll come to the ME driver, the management engine driver. Take it out of the zip file and set up me. I wish I had a configuration file that can set me up. Next, I accept. All right, after the ME driver, we want the RST driver. Installer. Yes, I want to restart. So again, no, I will restart. Finish. Manually restart. Okay, so you know the drill. Then we'll install Serial IO. Then we come back in. So now we've installed the Serial IO, the chipset. I'm just going back and deleting the zip files, me and RST. Now we'll go ahead and install the Ethernet driver. All right, so we'll get rid of this guy. Now the Wi-Fi driver. All right, and now Bluetooth. Now we'll install Creative Audio. Finish, and no and then the usual. Okay, we're almost done here. So now back in. So get rid of that. New audio. And then get rid of that. And since that's the BIOS, we already have it, we can get rid of that. So now we've installed everything on the motherboard. We have the complete foundation from the RAID, chipset, audio, unless you have a sound card, you leave that for last. Now that we have the foundation in place, now we can install, if you had a sound card separately, install that, a video card that we do have separately, whatever additional you may have, mouse, keyboard, now you can install the rest. So now we'll come over here to Win 10 Radeon software, again for the Asus TUF RX 5700 XT Evo. Okay, and then under additional options, even though this is a brand new install, normally I like to even run DDU, but I'm going to skip that in this video. But select factory reset, which will restart your computer, and click install. Okay, and restart now. That's gonna go ahead and put your OS in a perfect state with no other programs running to install the drivers. Okay, and now the AMD driver picks up back where it left off. So while this is doing its thing, mind you, at Alienware, at Velocity Micro, at Dell, there is a more automatic approach, hands-off, typically set in the images to do all this. Now, back when I started at Alienware and back when I started at Velocity Micro, we did everything manual, downloading the drivers just like we did here, installing just like we did here. As we improved our process, of course, things became more automated to make it quicker to ship out machines, but this is how we would install everything. And then after we install everything, then we do testing, stress testing to make sure everything works as it should. Of course, because everything is more specific on those machines, we would fine tune and tweak everything in the BIOS, fine tune and tweak everything in the OS. Here, I'm making it more generalized so that you have a better understanding. I'm not gonna have the RAM you have or the video card you have maybe, or all the other components you might have. So with this list that I made from every single box, I wrote down everything I had. Aside from downloading the drivers, I'm going to recommend, after you've downloaded the drivers and you've installed Windows and you've done all your basic tweaking, tuning, and your settings, go to each manufacturer's website, read the manuals, and if there's anything specific, set that in your BIOS that way, and even in Windows, set that, even your monitor drivers. If it has drivers, install it so that you can get more out of your monitor. Setting everything like that, not using default Windows drivers, will give you all of the performance your machine can give you. Mind you, of course, overclocking and everything will give you more performance, but here we've just installed everything. At this point, all I need to do is restart, which I'll do now. Okay, so then at this point, we can just come in, right click, AMD Radeon software, and that's it. We've installed everything. Now you can get full potential of your programs, of your games, of your system, not relying on the old, very old Windows drivers. All of these are WHQL qualified, Windows Hardware Quality Lab certified drivers. Mind you, I can use beta drivers too, that's fine. But these are newer drivers. All of the drivers that you get from Windows Update, they're very old Windows Hardware Quality Lab tested and certified driver. They're known to just work, but you're not going to get performance out of it. Talking about Windows, the other thing you want to do now that you're done installing everything and Windows is not going to give you drivers to install over your drivers, start Windows Update, check for updates, check for updates. I always recommend not only installing with the latest version of Windows. I didn't install any Asus software, so that's installing that Armory crate for me, which I should have done. I'm gonna go ahead and cancel this for now and install it afterwards. This is for my Electropunk Asus keyboard, which I've already done a few videos on, more coming soon. But anyway, and there's more view optional updates. And we can install this, we don't need to. The DDU portion will stop Windows from doing all this, and I have it down in the description below so you guys could check out. If you use DDU, it's not going to recommend this and overwrite all the newer stuff you just used. So, or you just installed on your own. These are old drivers. You can see here, 2018, 1968. Obviously that's incorrect, but January 2019. These are all old drivers. DDU will stop that from messing up your system. But anyway, this is Iggy with ThisBytesForYou, showing you guys from the ground up what you need to do after you build your brand new computer and how you get the most performance out of your machine without overclocking. Overclocking comes later. Get everything stable, stock, good, perfect. Once you know it's good, no blue screens, no whatever, then you can overclock, and then you won't guess your system, you'll guess your overclock. All right guys, Iggy out, and I hope I've helped you. Please let me know down in the comments below if I've helped you, or if you have any further questions. ThisBytesForYou is all to help you on anything and everything PC related, so that you can enjoy your system and not have to worry about blue screens and all that good stuff. Anyway, Iggy out. See you guys.